Alright, it's time for raising funds for World Domination, day number 159. So, it's time for the daily update. So we're down to 6 days until the next N13 hearing. Last version of the block mining game was released on the 10th of September. Oh man, I gotta sneeze. Our last video was the accounting commentary that was released, I guess, about a week ago now. Currently working on the legal commentary one, so it's like extended commentary for the legal stuff. And I don't know, where am I with that? I don't know, let's say 70%. I still got a chunk to edit. I think I had predicted that I'd be done today, but there's people have it's a leaf blower season. I was about to record, and then someone started up a leaf blower, so I shut down the computer, and then they stopped, so I was able to record. And I guess once I work, there's actually the legal commentary one is probably going to be the longest of the series, because there's lots of details. Michael Parker says, what is the temperature? The temperature is currently 1. And there's no updates on the Shopify store, no new sales. But if you want to buy my one of the physical items, I have the $8 regular expression sticker pack. So I'm just let's see, the $2 one sold in like a day, and then the $4 one sold in a couple days. So I'm just experimenting to see how long it takes for them to go with the various prices. I think to make it economic, it'll probably end up around, like, I guess I should probably price them like $25 or something. And currently I have in the Shopify store, you can purchase one of the block type dedications for $4. That's a very good buy. I think previously I was charging like $20 for them, but just as an experiment, I'm putting it for, I had one for $2, and I'm just seeing how long it takes to sell at the various prices, and I'll just keep doubling them each time. Oh yeah, and Canada Post is on strike, and for those 2 people who bought the stickers, I still haven't mailed yours yet, but I will think about that in the next few days here, once I get the probably next video out. And then I'll probably have to catch up on a few things the rest of the week, and maybe the weekend. Yeah, I probably won't accomplish much on the weekend. Hearing is on the 6th. And I think I'll probably actually finish the legal commentary video tomorrow. Beaten here by an AI bot. Capitalism at its finest. Yep. If you also like capitalism as much as me, you can go ahead and buy something from my store. So as in previous streams, we're going to continue work on the block mining simulation game. We're working toward the next release milestone, which is going to be crafting recipes. And the major piece of development is a general purpose scrollable list feature. So I think last night I worked on some user interface adjustments. So when you scroll to the last item in the list, I think it makes it just kind of render a bit more intuitively. All right, that's basically what I want, but it looks I guess there's actually a couple UI glitches there. Oh wait, maybe that's the border area. All right, let's update. I'll update it so it actually prints the borders. Colossal says, hi. How's it going? You know, I think I might once I get this eat working, I might just completely change this function. I might just have like a render horizontal, render vertical, and I can get rid of a ton of these if conditions. Good luck on beating Mustache Guy. I don't know, there's a lot of mustache guys out there, but if you're talking about the one I'm thinking of, somebody already beat him. Met with my networks professor today. He recommended I get a CCNA certification. I see a lot of job boards ask for it. I would say in general, like certifications, I actually don't know much about them. The thing that people have asked me about them a lot. Like for the most part, I'd say if the certification is recognized and CCNA is one that I keep seeing people ask me about it. So that probably is one of the ones where I would say it probably makes sense to do it, especially if your professor recommended it, then it probably is recognized. But to contrast that, like, there's all kinds of like there's a million things you can get, like a badge or a certification from like a million different places. And the question is it a recognized thing or not? Like you can get, LinkedIn Python certifications and stuff like that. And nobody's ever heard of those. But certifications that actually, like I see a lot of job boards ask for it. Yeah, if the job boards ask for it, then it makes sense to have it. If you can self-study for it, it's cheap. Yeah, I guess I didn't even really think much about the cost of it. I have no idea. I actually don't know anything. I know nothing about it. But I do know the way I've looked at a lot of those certification things, like there's certain certifications, like when I did my undergrad, it was a requirement, like it was a required thing to graduate this from this like WHMIS symbol course. We had to like learn what explosion thing means, and toxic and corrosive and stuff like that. And I think that's one of those things where it's not necessarily super complicated knowledge, but it's one of those things where it's someone needs to check a checkbox to make sure that you actually know that you've gone through and been exposed to that stuff. So that's how I view a lot of the certifications. But in my program, I don't actually even know of most of my peers I don't think most of my peers have really gotten any, quote unquote certifications other than, the degree. But I do, like in certain government institutions and stuff, I'm sure there's probably that CCNA thing probably is one of them. We'll look into, I'm gonna get Arduino and use Raspberry Pi 3. Hopefully you need some relevant network projects for portfolio. Yes, CCNA, that's, I guess what you said, as your networks professor. What exactly is that? I don't, I haven't looked into it myself personally. But people do ask me about that one specifically a lot. Cisco's still relevant? Yeah, I think a lot of like ISPs use Cisco for all the routing stuff. Didn't used to have to renew your certifications. Now you do. Yeah, it's a subscription service. You're gonna pay a fee to be certified, and then the news. Then will probably end up in the eventual scam. Will be, it'll cost more money to renew your certifications than you can get having a job with the certification. You have to rent everything. And then they'll have certification medallions, and they'll have to limit them. And then you'll have to fight someone in order to get their certification medallion. I have 0 certs, pays to be boss. CCNA equals Cisco. Okay. Let's make everyone have to go back to college to test every few years. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I never really thought about that. That would be a. And that seems like an amazing scam for where things could end up. Is people just need to keep extending the grift. $245. Better come with a medallion. That's not too bad. It's not a, like, I guess $245. It's like, food budget for a couple of weeks or so. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what the, I just think of how, if you made literally everything a subscription, just think about how many more things you could make a subscription. There we go. That's pretty good. All right, so it's actually a nice looking list now. With normal list mechanics. Yeah, that kind of that behavior with like subscription service accreditation, I think that's getting that there's just more and more of that. Last time I went to the dentist, actually, they said that they're basically kind of doing, well, not exactly like that, but she said it used to be like super difficult to get your test, and if you failed at a certain amount of time, then like you had to drop out of the program. But now they made it a bit easier, but they also made it so you can retry. So you just have to pay like thousands of dollars to try again. So now their model is like they just try to keep people pay a few $1,000s each time to rewrite the test and they just do that until they pass. So they get more money out of it. That's an awesome looking list. It's responsive. It's pretty cool. How often do you see responsive terminal applications? Is gatekeeping so based or gone broke? I don't know. I don't think it's based. I mean, it's going to be profitable. The HUD interface looks awesome. HUD, what does that stand for? Human user something. When I hired, having degrees and certifications meant near zero. Yeah, thinking back to like some of the people I've known, I don't know. There is kind of, if you hire people without a degree, the amount of training you might have to invest in them, I think would be possibly a lot more. But I like the other way. Like I definitely know people who had degrees who graduated from the same program that I did, and I just can't believe like how stupid they are in certain things. I had a boss once who apparently graduated from computer science at Waterloo, and he used to ask me these like the most absurd questions about like generic questions about like is it possible to write a program that does like X? And it would be like jaw-droppingly like, yeah, of course you can write a program that does that. You can write a program that does anything. And he kind of always lamented how he didn't learn anything from the program, and he hated programming and wasn't cut out for it. But somehow he graduated. HUD, like video game UI. Right now, it's like you can't even get a look in your way without a degree. Yeah, it's such a shame how screwed up the labor market is. I mean, this people could keep putting the burden onto like you need to try harder, you need a better resume, you need this. But like at some point, it's just like we're pushing people to just like waste their lives because it doesn't produce any long-term value for anyone to improve your resume and apply to 10 million jobs. Always felt like I had to unteach bad habits. Yeah, I guess it depends on where they came from. easier to teach clean slate on the job. At least with programming. So like all computers need power. He used to ask yeah, I can't remember the specific questions. I was also with there was an intern there who I worked with, who I got along with very well. And when the boss would come over and like talk to us and he would leave, we're just like dumbfounded. We're like, how can he not understand this stuff? He has a computer science degree. Most important thing was how much they wanted to know at depth, and if they loved what they were doing. Yeah, that's definitely important. If people have the intrinsic motivation to do it, you can like the best is like, yeah, if you're busy and like someone asks you a question, you're like, sorry, I don't have time to explain this, but here's the Wikipedia page, and like look up these definitions and research, like, you know, read these, search for this and this and this on Google, and you'll be able to figure it out. I believe in you. And then you can just leave them, and some people in that situation will 100% figure it out, and other people, if you come back to them, they will have made like zero progress, and they'll be exactly where you left them. All right, I think I'll split this monstrosity. Stratamesh says, hey, Robert. How's it going? I was being blocked by YouTube, commenting about the U.S. federal inability to come up with a budget, causing a temporary cease of governing tonight. It will absolutely will not let me say the words. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm glad that I kept the YouTube censorship filtering on. That's actually very revealing, the things that it censors. And almost to an amusing degree. I would have figured it would be way more like content stuff. I mean, there's some stuff that I actually wish it would filter. Dukiop Bias says, yo. I can't say those words. Those are controversial. Have nothing to do at work today. Being paid to sit on my couch and watch YouTube. Nice. Maybe talk about controversies Oh, that's like phonetic. No, that's not what this stream is about. All right, got my simplified rendering function. All right, let's simplify the horizontal orientation. Oh, I didn't see the. Oh yeah, I think that was the one I saw before. Hurting a social credit score. Yeah, the more and more the thing I think I don't like most about the quote unquote censorship. It's not like if there's a thing that, like when you said or did something that was against the system, if it just like told you, even if it's like unjust or illegal censorship, that's like you could still just capitulate and be like, okay, sure, I won't say that. But it's kind of worse. What's worse is like when it's just like attenuated or like shadow banning you. It's like, who's to say that I wouldn't have like maybe I'm shadow banned right now because of some like random word someone said, and I would have like 1,000 concurrent viewers watching me program this game now. We would never know. It's all just lost in the mysteriousness of the algorithm. Transparency, we can't have it. I guess not. We're all just going to be, we'll all just, our future is, our lives will just be secretly sabotaged without our knowledge, based on criteria we have no knowledge of. It's almost like we're like livestock in a way. Like a farmer will just like selectively breed its livestock based on whichever livestock is the best one. And then if there's some livestock that says bad things against the system, I'd be like, nope. No bank accounts for you. So that kind of simplifies things, but already happening, especially for marginalized groups. Sorry to take so much chat. I'm being pulled into a game of Helldivers. Have a good evening. Have a good night. Yeah, I mean, to some degree, I mean, those things are, it's a difficult issue because there's certain groups that will naturally just end up ahead or behind. There's a lot of different ways to divide people up into lots of different categories and backgrounds, and there's many more different ways to categorize people than the commonly discussed ones. How do I get internships at Amazon and NVIDIA like you did? I did it through when I was at the University of Waterloo. So I enrolled in the software engineering program at the University of Waterloo in 2009. And I interned at NVIDIA, I think it was 2012 or something. Back then, NVIDIA was actually not even a desirable place to work. It was kind of like a second best, second choice place. So that kind of helped. Of course, it's way more competitive now. And then I went to Amazon for my last two internships through the co-op program. And we went down under a J1 visa sponsored by Cultural Vistas. So yeah, I would say that's the primary thing. Attend a university that has a very strong co-op program. But of course, these days, the whole job market is way more competitive. But I don't know. Who knows what the future will hold? I think, like for sure, there's a lot of bad news now about, too many software engineers, and it's not as great of job prospects as it used to be. And that's going to go through social media. So I'm sure that enrollment in CS programs now is going down. But in a way that it's also sowing the seeds for the next, in probably 4 years or something, or it might even be more, we may have another shortage of software engineers. But yeah, that's the main advice. I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure of what other universities have a really highly regarded co-op program. I think probably schools like MIT and Stanford and stuff. I think there are probably people that actually I think I met when I was flying down. I think I did meet some guy who went to like a no-name university. I think it was in Nova Scotia, or I can't remember if it was Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. And he managed to secure his own internship, but it's more difficult if you don't. Most of the recruiters just go to like Waterloo or something, because it's like I think it comes down to just a convenience factor for the recruiter. So when they interview people, they want to interview a bunch of people, and like they have a quota of like they want at least 5 people or something. So it doesn't make sense for them to go to some no-name college and then interview a bunch of people. Like interview, say 10, maybe there's 10 people who are possible hires, and then they interview all of them, and then there's 0. They pick 0 of those people, so they just wasted the trip. So it makes more sense to go to a place where it's just like larger numbers, even though they might, there's always like a diamond in the rough that you can find. Actually, that just made me think. I wonder if there's a hack. I wonder if it'd be like a hack where you could just like go to one of these campuses, or like just like it wouldn't be. It's not really secret information. If you can manage to network around and like figure out where these university recruiters are, and then just physically go there. Like if you literally went to like the Tatham Center and around Waterloo, and you just like hung around outside and managed to like meet the university recruiter, if you could just talk to them, and then do an interview on the spot, even if you didn't go to that same university. I don't know if that would work, but it seems like the kind of thing that like could serendipitously work out. Because I don't think the recruiters care that much where you came from. It's just about they don't want to waste their time flying to the middle of nowhere. I meant to find internships on network programming, like protocol development or something, but it's hard to find them. Protocol development. I mean, there would be a limited number of people. Like once, I mean, think about it from this perspective. How many new network protocols are invented every year? Like if you figure that, if you think about that in terms of supply demand, how many network protocols are invented every year, and how many engineers are there who are capable of inventing a network protocol? The supply demand balance on that is going to make that competitive. I know like Google invents like network protocols and stuff. I think those would be really kind of the only companies that would have the ability to do that, to make new protocols from scratch. Maybe I mean, if you want to do just like the kind of pure theoretical stuff, grad school might be a more fruitful path for that. If you just like the kind of academic track, but then you can also like it depends how important money is to you. If you have rich parents, grad school is probably not too bad. But if you want to make a bunch of money, it makes more sense to go into the labor force. Dr. Money, hey man, I love your videos. Your stuff is great. Great to have on the background when I try to get some rest outfield. Love from U.S. Army. Typing from phone. Sorry for typos. Oh, thank you for the kind words. Protocol maintenance. I'm not even really sure what that would be. Maybe that's an industry term I'm not familiar with. Protocol maintenance. You mentioned specifically networking stuff. Networking is not really my expertise. I have had to like delve into do some like packet captures and reverse engineer some really bad networking, like look into some TCP sequence numbers and stuff, but that's not what I do every day. All right, let's see if that works. Fixing TCP or BGP bugs, for example. You mean like working in like actually fixing bugs and stuff in the networking stack? I think a lot of that stuff is I don't know, people like, I would imagine like in the Linux kernel, there's probably a ton of code written for the TCP stuff. There's probably like one, collection of TCP stuff, and then whoever wrote, like there's one like totally crazy person who has written like 90% of it and understands it all and just does it without pay. But I think once you have a TCP stack, like the number of new TCP stack implementations that are written every year, because once you write one, then you can kind of just copy and paste it around. I would imagine there would be probably some cases where you'd rewrite it for like high performance systems and stuff like that. But I would imagine, like, for example, or like a router company a company that makes routers or something, they would probably just have, like, you know, their own repo with all the TCP IP stack stuff, and then they just copy and paste that clone out of it into whatever brand of router they sell. I would imagine there probably are, especially with IPv6 now, there probably would be a ton of work to do. But I wouldn't be surprised. Like, really, I honestly don't know. But I would assume that most, like, companies that do this stuff, they probably have their you know, a couple developers that just kind of work on it continuously, and they're always like working on new support for IPv6 and stuff like that. Yeah, internships for network programming. I'd say probably you want to check out companies that make routers and stuff. And there's probably there probably are a bit more. I would assume most of that most of the work to do probably doesn't involve writing it from scratch. It probably involves, like, working on like fixing performance bugs, or working in, like, constrained environments. Like, I would imagine there's probably, like, a company would have some, like, IoT device or something, and the IoT device, it has a very, very low power, and then so they already have the code, it's done, but then they run it, and they find it, like, it's not efficient enough, or it consumes too much energy, or like it's sending network packets, but it does so in a very specific way. So some of your work would involve, like, deleting large amounts of the code, so it has less features, and it's simpler, and it only, you know, sends one heartbeat packet every 24 hours or something like that. There's probably lots of niche stuff like that out there. Having said that, I think it's probably going to be difficult to get specifically that job, because I find that a lot of companies, from a company's perspective, I don't know if you've ever played Age of Empires or, like, any real-time strategy game before, but I think from the perspective, like, you have your own interest and career goals and stuff you want to do, but companies don't care about that at all, and they basically consider you like you're just like an Age of Empires thing. And then when they want you, they'll be like, okay, we're gonna put you to work on wood right now. So now you're a wood chopper. And then all of a sudden they'll run out of gold, and then they just, like, select all the people, and they're like, okay, no more wood, everyone on gold now. And then they just get you to work on gold as fast as possible. And then they run out of that, and they're like, we need some stone. And that's how it'll work in a company. Like, I worked in I applied, I actually, in two times in my life, I have applied for a job with the title C++ software developer, and I got the job, and I did not write a single line of C++. I ended up writing Java in one case, and in the other case I did PHP web development stuff. Orthoplex 64, you're late. Hope you're doing well. Oh yeah, I guess it's based on the ratio. Let's see. I think this does what I want for the one adjacent list case. Will that give me an undefined or division by 0 issue? When making a project, how should I balance code of myself and learning from outside sources? I guess that would depend on like when making a compiler, I often see resources straight up give you the source code, which can be tempting. I think it probably depends on the objectives of the project. So if I mean, it is kind of a good philosophical question. So in the context of if the goals of the project are to learn, then you should favor writing it yourself as much as possible, or even possibly from scratch. If the goals of the project are to achieve a result and get something done, make money, impress your boss, then you want to lean on external resources as much as possible. Like the ideal thing in that case, like if it's ever a commercial objective, the ideal thing is you don't even write anything. You just like use an existing piece of software that already exists, and you write zero code. So between those two extremes, I guess you can figure out what's the right answer in your individual case. It's a good question, because when I taught at the college, one thing I observed was we were teaching people about IoT stuff, and the whole point was to teach them how to build it and how to write the stuff. And increasingly, there's all these really neat kits and stuff you can buy from SparkFun and all kinds of embedded. Adafruit has some stuff. You can buy these things, and they're like a pre-made solution for you. So there's a trend where these pre-made solutions would increasingly do more and more. They'd come with starter code, and they'd come with everything streamlined and stuff. It gets to a point where the students would almost know absolutely nothing about how to actually program or build the solution from scratch, and they would just unpackage it and then run the example code, the really nice example code, and copy and paste it, and that's basically it. But they wouldn't understand anything about the system. But I think it's that can also be a good way for them to get started, because you have to go you have to do everything in steps. And if you can start off with the basics and just get some basic confidence, then you can go the next step and actually if you can, because if you can't figure out how to get it to work with copying and pasting the code, you have to be able to do that before you'd be capable of writing it from scratch. My objective is to look impressive in front of employers, not get grilled in the interview. I guess in that case, there's probably not many employers that'll ask you about compiler questions and stuff. In that case, it probably makes sense to just do a curve-fitted. There's so many things you could learn. I don't know what the current interview trend is. It's probably the same, but years ago it was just whiteboard interviews. They'd get you to come in and give you a marker, and they'd be draw a binary search tree. Now write the code on this whiteboard for binary search tree deletion. And here's, write the code to merge two linked lists or something. And I guess you can Google for whatever's the standard going around thing. I mean, I'll give you one example. When I was doing my interview, internship interviews, one of the questions that the interviewer asked one time for one company was, how do you find cycles in a linked list? And I didn't know I thought about it and didn't quite get it. But then after the interview, I looked up what the answer was, and there's a pretty simple solution. You can have a fast pointer and a slow pointer, and then you just you start the linked list, start going through it, and then if the fast pointer that advances 2 every time jumps over the one that has advances 1 node every time, then you know you have a cycle. And I think the next term, I interviewed with that company again, and by chance they just asked the exact same question. And because they asked it the first time, so I just studied that question, and then I knew instantly like what the exact answer was, and like you say, I impressed them, and then the interviewer kind of like let his defenses down, and then I think I talked to him for like the rest of the interview about how difficult it was to set up a mail server manually, and we didn't even like do any interview stuff, but we just talked about like frustrations with mail servers that he also experienced, and that was one of the ones where I got the offer. Now that's I don't know, it depends who you interview with. You may, if you interview with like a small pool of companies, you may get the same interview question twice. So I guess it is good. I would have to imagine there's like a larger set of questions circulating now, but I remember even back then, like I think there was a relatively small set of interview questions that was just like circulating, and some employers I think would steal them from each other. Like there's a finite number of these stupid algorithms questions, and if you just if you start learning more and more of them, and you get to a point where a pool of 50 of these down minute interview questions, eventually you'll get one interview where they ask you one, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I know exactly how to solve that, and then you look super smart, but really you just memorize the solution. Anonymous user says, "Sup, Robbie? How's it going?" What if it said make a hash set of all node addresses seen so far? But that wouldn't be good if the list is too big. Yeah, the fast pointer, slow pointer method is it's pretty good because it'll be fast. It'll probably have it's just very fast, very simple, requires no extra memory. Anon says, ain't no learning experience like a hands-on experience. Education system is a scam. Yeah, I mean, hands-on experience is definitely better, but for the interview process, I mean, the interview process is also like a different type of, I mean, it's not a scam, but it's a total another dysfunctional system. Reminds me of TurboVision. Not familiar with what that is. Borland C++ for DOS. Interface designer. Oh, you mean the stuff on screen? I thought maybe you meant the conversation about internships and stuff. Got bored the other day. Decided to play with Agent Verse. Altered it enough to go to PHP page in XAMPP. Approved by other agents. A little AI office. That was my excitement for the year. Play with Agent Verse. This is like some multiverse for AIs. That's abstract enough. I don't really even know. I can't imagine what that is. Int can't be converted to long. Agent First is a tool by BMB, which allows multiple agents to communicate in tandem. Neat. That's not what I expected. Professor init. Employee approve init. Set title to online. I guess I can understand that in the context of setting something up, but is this like a multiplayer metaverse where you do these things? There we go. Some GitHub repository can be used in metaverses, though. There's a Minecraft branch, very useful. It's found agents to follow a specific workflow. Neat. That kind of stuff is I don't know. There's so many possibilities with like using like taking abstract sequences of stuff and then tokenizing it and then getting LLMs to do stuff with it. Like I was thinking about people are saying that AI is going to replace software developers, but it's not going to replace plumbers. But if you try to imagine a scenario where AI does replace plumbers, what would that even look like? And I think you could easily imagine a scenario where you have like a robot or even like a motion capture suit. If you pay plumbers to wear a motion capture suit and then capture the motions and tokenize the motions, then you could feed that into an LLM. And if you had like 10 billion movement tokens from a plumber, maybe you could automate them. And what got tell me AI will replace code entirely. Serious pipe dreams. There's no way. A full stack developer will be replaced in the next 10 years. Lacks self-awareness. I think one of the most critical things is it just doesn't learn good. Like you get into those, like after you get past a certain point, you're just like, please fix the thing that I asked you to fix. And it's like, yes, certainly I'm sorry, I will fix that. And then it'll just break something that it fixed before. And then you tell it, and it's like, oh yes, I will fix that. And then it just keeps breaking the same set of things. I mean, it may have another a growth curve, because I think what it's trained on now, it's trained purely on like one set of data. But the script of an interaction with an LLM is itself a totally different set of data. So as people use it more, I mean, the other thing I've been thinking about too is for like people who know absolutely nothing about programming. Like if you think about the ratio of people who are total noobs who don't know anything to people who have done it all their lives and stuff, there's way more availability to get training data from like people who don't know what they're doing. You can't do that, like, because the Plummer motions don't follow rules, like in text. The next text is predictable given the previous text, but the Plummer motions will wildly change in different environments. Well, that's true, but you will still see like sequences, like when a plumber's attaching, like when they attach a sink, there's going to be a certain sequence, like the sink putting on sequence and stuff. And if you also couple that, like, I mean, this would be ridiculous, but like if a private equity firm came to me and gave me $10 billion and said, we want you to automate plumbing, this is what I do. It's like, hire a plumber, get a team of plumbers, put motion capture suits on them, capture all their motions, but also have like video cameras and stuff for like deep learning. So it's like analyzing every frame. It's like understanding the context. And then it's seeing like, okay, sink acquired, like fitting identified. The fitting has the wrong class. Fitting needs agent, bonding agent applied to it. Bonding agent tube identified. Then issue this sequence of tokens to move toward it. The question would be how much of the data would you need to converge to something useful, or to converge to like something that's actually usable. You might need like 1 billion hours of footage and stuff from plumbers. Been coding for about a quarter of a century. I can safely say AI, its current state is an absolute mess. We need to implement some sort of coder to identify weights. Yeah, I haven't used it much. I've used it enough to recognize that I don't want to use it, but it's also good enough that I know I can't really sleep on it. But people keep coming in and asking me about it, so I'm gonna have to keep giving it more shots. A robot already takes the plumbing in your car. You mean for the manufacturing, or because the really difficult part is the like after the fact, like when you have the kind of open-ended, situation-based movements and stuff. If you can if you can use like dead reckoning programming with a servo motor, like rotate by this degree and stuff like that, like the assembly line robots, that's a very easy solvable problem. All right, I got to think about how this is going to render with multiple items or multiple adjacent lists. Load CSS right now. Why no style page? I guess I assume you know the debugger pretty well, but you can usually like click around in the modern debuggers. Modern CSS debugging is very much improved. You can like inspect element and then go into the computed styles and make sure it's actually being applied. code is inevitable. It says sup. Not too much. Just working on the block mining simulation game. All right, that's kind of better. Fighting CSS the entire time. 10 minutes to realize it's being overridden by the JS. Nice. I know if it's like if it's overwritten by another rule, then I know it'll, in the inspect element thing, it'll be crossed out. I'm not sure if it updates that at runtime. I guess I would have hoped that the browser would indicate that, but maybe not. This should work, but it doesn't. We're just destroying element and recreating it, which is why I didn't see anything. Yeah, I thought in the inspect element it was, for the most part, it would like keep up to date with dynamic changes. But I don't know, I guess it depends which browser. CSS and JavaScript are so needlessly complicated now. It might even be bugs in the browser. This was rendering a second ago. might be why. All right, that's looking better. All right, we're getting closer to a super awesome 2D selectable generic list. I think that's a good place to leave it for tonight. We've continued to make progress, so we'll continue making progress next night, tomorrow night, for day 160. All right, have a good night, guys.